Come on. Welcome to a treat for your feet. So why treat your feet? Well, from being about 12 months of age, you will have been on your feet, walking, running, dancing, jumping, doing all sorts of stuff, taking your feet for granted. If you consider it, consider your body from your ankles all the way up to your head, this big mass of body. And then consider the surface area of your feet, those little ankles. All the weight from your upper body is going down into the ankles before it spreads out into the feet. So they take a lot of punishment. The ankles in particular subject to a lot of compression. In winter we wear shoes, so their feet are restricted. The muscles sometimes get weak or get tired if we overdo it. A little bit about the structure of the feet. You have 7 ankle bones. The biggest one is the calcaneum, which is the heel bone, and all the others are fit in and around the calcaneum. So when you walk or jump or whatever, those bones can compress and cause problems. You have 5 tarsal bones, metatarsal bones. They're the long bones in your feet. And then you have 14 phalanges or toes. It's a bit like in your fingers. So 7 tarsal bones, or bones in the heel. 5 metatarsal bones, long bones, in the main part of your foot. And then 14 phalanges, or bones that constitute the toes. At the bottom of the feet you have 3 main ligaments. You've got the spring ligament, which is quite short and thick and is probably the strongest of the 3, that's deep. Then you have the short plantar ligament and the long plantar ligament, and they all help to maintain the arch in your foot. So when you're walking, putting pressure on your feet, you're not actually doing any damage. Their feet are designed to take a certain amount of impact, but particularly those of us who are of a more sporty nature, sometimes that results in too much compression. Before we start the treat your feet, I want you to make sure that the trousers you're wearing are loose enough to hitch them up towards your knee so we can work into the back of the leg as well. Have a towel underneath your legs so you don't get a mess on whatever you're sitting on. And some nice cream. You can make yourself up a little aromatherapy oil mixture if you wish. Whatever works for you. You don't have to go out and buy anything particularly expensive. To prepare, I have washed my feet. I've soaked them in some nice warm water. I've washed them with a nice body wash. I have used my scrubber to get any dead skin off. So now I'm ready to really treat my feet. I'm going to start with my right foot. So taking a little bit of cream onto your hand. Hitch your trouser leg up. Rub it into your hands first and then very gently massage over your foot. Just spread it out. Maybe turn your foot over to the side and use your thumb to work into the arch of your foot. This may be a little sensitive at times. Lighten up if it's really uncomfortable. Just working in. Now taking the left hand into the knuckle. So use the knuckles of the left hand to work a bit more deeply into the arch of your foot. Really feel those ligaments start to loosen up. Blood flow increasing. Hands either side of your foot, give it a shake. Now we're going to start working into the toes. We'll start with the big toe. On the front of the toe towards the nail. Notice any areas of tenderness. Really work into it. Feels so good. And the inside of your toe. In reflexology terms, your big toe is your head. And then work into the soft pad of the big toe. This is your brain area. And where you have a whirl, a bit like a fingerprint, but it is a toe print, the centre of that is your pituitary gland. If you press hard, you might feel something a bit like grain of sand. Might be a little tender, depends how much stress you're holding in your mind space. And squeeze it out. Working now into the next toe. Work into the front of the toe first. Work down the sides and into the back of your toe. Don't forget the tips of the toes, they're important too. And one by one proceed, working along the front of the toes and the sides of the toes and the back of your toe. Finishing with the top. Just give it a little bit of a rub, working with your thumb in circles. You can take as long as you like with this process. If it feels really good, then take that extra time with the toes. And then finishing with the little toe. Noticing whether you feel tenderness, discomfort, and working into it. Now you're going to work between the space of the long bones. Start between the the big toe and the second toe, and very slowly work your left thumb up those bones. In the space between, very gently push down towards the toes. This may feel a little uncomfortable if you wear shoes a lot in particular, because that soft tissue between the bones can become tight, can be restricted and have a bad or a restricted circulation. Moving to between the second and the third toes, start near the toes and then work your way up between the bones. And then next one. Just notice how that feels. And then between the fourth and the toe and the little toe. And then rub into the whole of the top of your foot. Go to the outside edge of your foot. That little space at the base of the little toe, and give that a little rub. And then working your way up the side of your foot, you'll notice a little bump, that's the metatarsal notch. That also can get tender, so little circles around the metatarsal notch. Take your time. And a bit of a stroke. A little bit more cream on your hands. Work into the ankles. Little circles around the ankle joints. If, like me, you've been sitting down a little more than you usually do while COVID has been attacking us, you might actually have found that your ankles start to swell. Lymphatic drainage maybe not being so good as we're a little less active. If you notice any areas of tenderness, spend a little more time there. The usual place of feeling tenderness is on the inside of the ankle usually, a couple of inches up from the inside of the ankle and then coming down. If that's tender for you, then very gently work into it. You should notice that tenderness start to ease and eventually disappear. If it's sore, rub it some more. A bit more cream onto your hands. Working now into the calf muscle. Down the shin and up the back of the calf. The muscles of the lower leg control movement in the foot. Whether it's pointing, flexing, side to side, twisting, it's the muscles of the lower leg that control the movements of the foot. So they get very tight if you don't stretch them out regularly, a bit of TLC. Taking your middle 3 fingers to the back of your heel and push very gently as you slide your fingers all the way up to just before the soft space at the back of the knee. If your calf muscles are very tight, this might be sore, but with repetition that soreness should dissipate and it should just feel really nice. And some squeezing either side. Ah, it's lovely. And massaging foot to knee. Integrating the whole of the foot with the lower leg. And release. Let's change sides. Some cream on your hand, rub it in, and then spread it over your foot, in between the toes, the top of your foot, the bottom of your foot, around the ankles. We're going to start with the ligaments at the bottom of the foot. So turning your foot over onto its side, using your thumb to start working into the soft part of your foot. As before, you might notice some areas of tension, tenderness, then work into it, really stimulate those ligaments. Get that circulation going. Then you might want to turn to the knuckles of the right hand. Little circles with the knuckles as you work into the sole of your foot. Believe me, your feet will really thank you for this TLC, for this pampering. Warming up the top of your foot. We're going to start working into the spaces between the long bone, between your metatarsals. Starting between the big toe and the second toe and working your way up between that space. You may notice at first it feels a little lumpy, and then after a period of time it starts to feel smoother again. That's a releasing of the congestion of the lymphatic fluid between the joints. Moving on to the next toe. Really feel between those bones. Don't force it, but just run your finger between the line of the bones. We start round about the base of the toes and work your way up. This feels really good. And finishing with the space between the little toe and the fourth toe. Now working into the toes, starting with the big toe, work along the front of the toe. That many little muscles in your feet. We don't think of the feet as having muscles, but they do have muscles, they have ligaments to enable movement of the foot. And then to the pad of the big toe, maybe finding that centre of that little whirl, that little feeling of a grain of sand, which is the pituitary gland. Press it, release some stress, and into the top of the toe. This is supposed to be where the pineal gland reflex point is. And the inside of the toe, that corresponds to the inside of your neck, or the outside of the neck, sorry. There we go. And then the second toe. Start with the front of the toe, then work into the sides of the toe, and then to the back of the toe. And in your own time, move on to the next toe. And the fourth toe. Finishing with your little toe. Go to that little outside edge, that little lumpy bit just beneath the base of your little toe on the outside edge. This corresponds to the outside edge of your shoulder in reflex terms. Then work yourself way up the outside edge of your foot to the metatarsal notch. A bumpy bit at the top of the metatarsal. And give your foot a rub. A little more cream on your hands as we prepare to work into the ankle joints. It's the ankle joints that suffer the most with compression when we walk and run and do whatever do when we're on our feet. But once the pressure's gone through the ankle and spreads out into the foot, most of that weight is borne by the long bones and the ligaments at the base of the foot. You can think of the ligaments at the base of your foot a bit like the suspension system of the foot. So it can cope with a little bit of up and down and jumping, but if you keep doing it and keep doing it, you're just going to cause problems for that suspension system. The area of most imbalance is usually about a couple of inches above the inside of the ankle. So if you notice that's tender, then work into that bit a little more. I've already stretched out this morning, so it's not so bad on mine. Although I have done quite a long walk this morning. So but it's not so bad. I've stretched, so it's okay. But if you're tight and you don't stretch on a regular basis, you might find the inside of that muscle is a little tight and a little sore. Just work into it. And release. Bit more cream. Working now into the muscles of the lower leg. Spread the cream over your legs first. Middle fingers, both hands, to the top of the ankle, and then slowly applying a little pressure all the way up the centre of that muscle, and release, and again. And again. Lovely. And then some gentle squeezes. You can repeat this as often as you wish, if it feels especially good. I know I love doing this at the end of a long day. I've been doing a lot of massage. I tend to feel it more in my legs than I do in my hands. So it's always good to give my legs and my feet a bit of appreciation. They serve me really well. And integrating your foot with your lower leg. Okay, and put your cream to one side. Mobilizing the feet, so make sure you're really comfortable. Rest maybe back onto your hands, or if you're on your bed, maybe just sit against the back of the bed. Very gently starting to point and flex your feet. Working with your breath, inhale as you point the toes, and exhale as you flex. Inhale, exhale. Releasing tension. Stay with your toes pointed now. If you're in danger of getting cramp, then release. And then flex your feet so the heels come off the floor. Hold it. Breathing in. And breathing out. And rotations. Make these rotations slow and meaningful. Big wide circles. Aim to get the outside edge of your foot as close to the floor as is possible. Don't rush it, work deep into the ankle joint. This is releasing fixation, compression of the ankle joint. Stimulating the circulation within the ankle joint. And take it the other way. You may notice some creaking, cracking, crunching sounds in the ankle. As long as that's not associated with pain, it's fine. Taking the ankles through their full range of motion and coming back to centre. Taking your feet out to the sides. Exhale, bringing your toes together. Breathing in. Breathing out. Breathing in. Breathing out. This time, keep your feet out to the sides. Encourage the outside edges of your feet towards the floor. If they don't quite get there, don't worry about it, it's fine. This is opening up the inside edge of the feet, the inside of the ankle, a subtle stretch to the muscle on the inside of the calf. Also rotation into the hips. We're not focusing on the hips quite so much at the minute. We're working with the ankles. Coming back to centre, and then take your toes towards that centre point. Your toes might not touch, that's fine. You might feel a stretch on the outside edge of your ankle, just opening up that muscle, lengthening that muscle into the ankle joint just a little bit. And release. Spreading your toes really wide. Create space. If you find this a challenge, then at some other point you might want to get one of those toe separators, the kind of thing you use when you're painting your nails. Place them between your toes and stay there for 5 minutes. You don't have to do anything else, just separate the toes. That helps to release tension in the muscles of the feet, particularly the muscles around about the metatarsals and your toes. And release. Take your right foot over your left leg. Now, get your left hand and thread your fingers through your right toes. So your right hand is free. Rest your right hand on your knee. You're going to use the left hand to rotate into your right ankle. You might feel that your feet are a little slippy now, that's fine. If your fingers slide out, don't worry, just put them in again. And work deeply into the ankle joint. Release your fingers, hand over the top of your foot, and encourage your toes under, towards the sole of your foot. Feeling a stretch at the top of your foot into the front of your ankle. If you're tight, you might actually feel a stretch into the front of your shin. We're aiming for that straight line from the shin towards the top of your foot, as though you're a ballerina pointing your toes are going under, you're going to go on point. And then release, take your hand underneath your toes and draw them forwards. Maybe supporting that with the other hand if that feels comfortable. It's a bit of a deeper stretch. Now you're stretching the ligaments at the base of your foot. We talked about the spring ligament and then the short and then the long plantar ligaments that support the arch of the foot. If they get tight, you can develop a condition called plantar fasciitis. Many of you might have experienced it yourself or know someone who has. It can be extremely painful. Plantar fasciitis can also originate at the Achilles tendon at the back of the heel and into the calf muscle. So stretching of the foot, stretching of the lower leg, particularly of the calf muscle, is very beneficial for the treatment of plantar fasciitis. And release. Wriggling your toes, point and flex that foot, and let's change sides. Left foot over your right leg. Support the knee with your left hand and then slide your right fingers through your toes. Into the ankle crank, working deep into your ankle. And the other way. Once again, noticing whether it's creaking and cracking a little more than the other side, or maybe not quite as much. Is the rotation in the left foot the same as the rotation in the right? And release. Hand over the top of your foot, tucking the toes under towards the sole of your foot. Stretching the front of the muscle at the front of the tibia and at the front of your foot. Feel the stretch. I really enjoy taking the time to pamper my feet. Feels so good, so relaxing. Quite a popular treatment that I do is reflexology, and my clients say it feels so relaxing. I must admit I like to have my feet played with too, but I don't often get the opportunity, so I just have to do it for myself. And release. Hand over the bottom of your toes and draw them forwards. Maybe supporting with the other hand, that makes the stretch a little deeper. The foot is flexed, so you have a right angle at the ankle. Stretching into the ligaments at the base of your foot. And gently release. Pointing, flexing that toe, a few little circles. Spread your toes really wide. And relax. Noticing how your feet feel. They might feel a little warmer than they did before because of the stimulated blood circulation. You might notice your ankles aren't quite as swollen as they were before. That's because of improved lymphatic drainage. If you feel the need, you can take a rest now, lie down wherever you are, and just enjoy that sensation of having happy feet. Thank you very much for spending that time with me. Namaste. Om Shanti.